Hey there, this is Kat of Stray Cat Cast. Welcome to my channel. I have been uploading a few different videos that I've been doing cat reacts to. So it's anywhere from something political, where you're like, what the heck? Something in regard to justice received because of bad behavior, or something just adorable and cute. So it could be anything. I change it up. It kind of all depends on how I'm feeling during the day. Now, I have been wanting to have talk about this for the last few days because it has been really baffling to me how misinformation can be put out there when they know it's not correct, but just because the president says it, it's taken as fact and they run with it. And so I decided to kind of like look at the numbers. Look at the numbers of these places, the crime rates of these places that all of these like red states are sending troops to. Okay, now I was debating what order I would go in. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in the order of how does the national crime rate, where do these places fit in? The two places, New York City and Chicago, Illinois, in comparison to the red states that send troops that are saying that crime is rampant. There's a national average. There's a national average of 62% of crime that has kind of like gone down from 1991 to 2022. So this is a number as of 2022. But it is, once I get into specifics, you'll see that these places are falling in line with the actual, like, with crime like going down nationally versus going up. You'll get to see, okay, their numbers are trending down, and their numbers are trending down from 2024. Okay, so when they last like checked it as of 2024, they've been trending down, but I'm going to get more into that. So national average 62%. New York has gone down by 66.1. So it's gone down more than the national average. Chicago, Illinois, 67%. It has gone down 5% more than the national average. Now, let's look at these other states. Mississippi, South Carolina, Tennessee, West Virginia, Louisiana have all gone down at a lesser rate. So they're all like in the 50s or below as far as trending down with crime. So these places that are talking about these two areas are just, the crime dictates that I send military there. They actually, that blew away. They actually need to be worrying about their own states. That's the first thing. Now, let's talk about, now I want to talk, first I want to, before I get into the specific numbers for these places, I want to reference an article. It was on the 22nd, and it was about Trump he's going to send troops to Chicago, New York. As Hegstead, he orders weapons for DC troops. My God. There's already an issue with the treatment of citizens by certain police officers. I'm not saying that all are bad, but if you are watching a bad acting officer and you're not doing anything, you're just as bad. That's my opinion. Now, he threatened, I'm going to read a little bit of it. Okay, he's threatened to take his federal crackdown on crime and city cleanliness to New York and Chicago. Okay, and then Hegstead, he's ordering National Guard troops he's already ordered that to be in DC, right, under federal control, and now they're being armed. So their presence is not only there, but now they're going to be armed. You think about places that turn their military against their citizens and gun down people, and with the thought of, we do this amount of people, they'll get scared and they'll run away, the rest will leave. think about that. So he said, when ready, we will start in Chicago. Chicago is a mess. Now, let's talk about Chicago, because he's mentioning Chicago first, right? So their homicide rates are at the lowest point since 2014. And we already know that the crime has gone down at a higher rate than the national average. We already know that. They're surpassing the national average. They have a declining crime rate that includes like carjackings and things like that. Like as far as like, you know, everything's trending now. Okay, because when I'm talking about New York City, there's a burglary and there's auto and violent crime and all of that. All of Chicago's are trending down. Is it higher per 100,000 because they use that as a standard? It might be higher per 1,000, but it's still trending down. So to say that it's a complete mess and that it's getting worse and that it's doing that is a misrepresentation of the numbers. Okay. Now he said, we talk about the arming of the troops and all of that. So he's already like talking about that. Let me see if I can switch my screen. I want to go ahead and I want to fast forward. Okay. So, we're talking about now. This is a step in escalation. So it's been like I'm going to give you the numbers. Policing the national capital came as nearly 2,000 National Guards. 2,000 of these guards are like, okay, I'm going to be sent to a city to fight what? Oh, protesters? Oh, protected by constitutional rights? Yeah, let's go do that. I made an oath to the Constitution. Made an oath to follow the Constitution. Let's disregard that. 2,000 people. Now, it said earlier this week, hundreds of troops from several Republican-led states arrived to bolster D.C. and the National Guard. That's what I'm talking about. When I'm saying these red states are just like, oh, the president says, let's do this, and they do it, and they subscribe to this whole narrative of, it's so bad, we've got to send this, when they are the ones that really, really need to pay attention to their numbers and their citizens and their crime rates. Smoke and mirrors. And it's just because he decided to say that it's that bad. He decided to say that it's that bad and they're just subscribing to it. Okay? So now it says the city had been informed about the intent of the National Guard to be armed. A person familiar with the conversation said earlier this week. The person was not authorized to disclose the plans and spoke on condition of anonymity. A defense official told CNN, at the direction of the Secretary of Defense, JTF DC members supporting the mission to lower the crime rate in our nation's capital will soon be on mission with other service-issued weapons consistent with their mission and training. My God. Trump took command of Washington, D.C. Police Department earlier this month and deployed the National Guard under laws and constitutional powers that give the federal government more sway over the nation's capital than other cities. The U.S. president claims that crime and homelessness in the district constitute a crisis against the objection of local leaders. So, typically, a president will reach out. He'll reach out to the governor. He'll reach out to another elected official. They'll discuss it. It's like, let me just change that. They will request it. If they need help, they'll request it. They didn't say that. They didn't say I needed help. They didn't say send in the guards. They didn't say this. They didn't say that. They didn't do any of that. But he's decided to just do that because you know why? The Supreme Court of the United States is dysfunctional and they're no longer truly following laws. They are towing the party line and they are giving him permission to basically destroy this country and not have the fear of repercussions. You know, when you're growing up and your mama says, oh, if you take that candy off that counter at the local drugstore or the store, you won't be in trouble. If you take something that doesn't belong to you, you're going to be in trouble. If you speak to your teacher, just, you speak to your teacher in a certain way, or you speak to a friend in a certain way, or you speak to an adult in a certain way, there's going to be an issue. If you plagiarize on your tests or do your projects, you're going to be in trouble. If you drive drunk, you're going to be in trouble. If you assault someone, you're going to be in trouble. All of these parameters of what's deemed socially responsible and what's deemed morally responsible and morally right are all out the door because of this, the decision to, which I still don't understand the whole fear of this man. I don't understand how he has people running scared. I really, really, really don't. Everybody's saying, oh, it's going to make sense to you. Doesn't make sense? No. Okay. Now, elsewhere, the National Guard is under the jurisdiction of the relevant state, where the state governor is the force's commander-in-chief and can deploy the military in case of emergency. In rare circumstances, the federal government takes control of the state's National Guard in what is deemed a national emergency, typically at the request of the state governor in question. Curious. Now, earlier this summer, Trump federalized the California National Guard over the objection of the state's governor, Gavin Newsom, in an almost unprecedented abnormality, sending troops in parts of Los Angeles to counter protests against Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE. You already know about that, and you already know about Governor Newsom responding, which I have mad respect for, and you already know that people really, really took to the streets. I saw cool things as like tow truck drivers towing ICE vehicles, but then I've heard troubling stories of people being masked because they're masked and they don't identify themselves, and anybody can buy the uniform. They're going and they're actually assaulting people, and they're bounty hunters. And you're like, I see a video the other day about a police officer saying, police officer saying about getting a $30,000 bonus. So the value of human life, just like when it was bounty hunters, or they probably weren't called bounty hunters back then, catching runaway slaves, and what they would get for that. Now it's, and I'm not even going to say undocumented immigrants, because there's people that are U.S. citizens. There's people that are documented. There are people that are going the proper channels. So guess what? People are out in the streets and they're protesting, and they're supposed to be covered by the Constitution. But because his numbers, his approval rating is going down, and he's being called out for the Epstein stuff, and he has declining health, he is grabbing on to whatever he can to stay. Oh, I'm like, there was a ant biting me. I'm on my side, obviously. So he's just grabbing onto things and he's trying to deflect, and but it's not working. It's not working. But that's how he's trying to like get our minds off of it. Like, you think about the fact that they're working toward bringing back segregation. That's something that I'm gonna have to cover on another video. They're doing things. I'm digressing because this is where my mind's going. Sorry, but they are him and, oh my God, I'm blanking on her name. Blondie. Blondie. Oh my God. Oh, it'll come to me. But they've gone after two laws that protected desegregation. And so saying that black children could attend school along with white children, and that they had just as much of a right to an education. And they're going after that, and that's becoming something that, like, things like this where they don't talk about it because there's all this other stuff going on, because everything's such a cluster, F-U-C-K, that other things are slipping through the cracks. A lot of people are talking about a lot of this, and I've just gotten to the point where I feel like I have to weigh in. Okay. Hex test orders come just a day after Janine Pirro, girl loves a cocktail, the District of Columbia's, that's her name, Janine likes a cocktail. The District of Columbia's top federal prosecutor instructed prosecutors to pursue the most serious charges possible in cases stemming from recent arrests. So some of these arrests are citizens, some of these are documented people, some of these are undocumented immigrants that have not committed crimes. Okay, limiting their discretion as the Trump administration intensifies its law enforcement presence in the Capitol. That directive, first reported by the New York Times, was issued this week and narrows the ability of line prosecutors to decide how cases are charged and prioritized. So they're basically going to do a copy and paste of what is the worst we can do. What is the longest that we can keep this person in as free labor in the prison system? If we can keep them indefinitely and just make them a slave for life, hey. If we can keep them in 10 years, make them a slave for life. Oh, they're arrested because they're protesting. They disappear. Some, when they say never to be seen, you think about back in the days of slavery and people were kidnapped and they were brought to America, and they were separated from their family members. They may have had a family member literally in the same state at a different plantation, but they didn't know that, because there's, as far as communication and stuff like that, that wasn't there, right? So they wouldn't know that their relative was there. So they have these different facilities, and they're not like letting you know where that person goes. That person can literally be at a facility at the same state and not know that their family member is at the facility in the same state. And this is going to be another example of breaking apart families and decimating their history, especially if they're younger. Just let that sink in, man. There's a digital age now, but think about how it was for slaves. African people brought here, not knowing the language, given a new name, Sally, Beth, whatever their names were, John. Doubt there was any Rebecca's, Beth, whatever, given those new names. In line with President Trump's directive to make D.C. safe, U.S. Attorney Pirro has made it clear that the old way of doing things is unacceptable. She directed her staff to charge the highest crime that is supported by the law and the evidence. First of all, you arresting them without evidence. You handcuffing, manhandling, beating the crap out of them, sending them to El Salvador or wherever you're sending them, Alligator, Alcatraz, wherever you're sending them to, with no evidence that they've done anything other than protesting and speaking up, or just existing, or being at work and being on a roof while ICE is like surrounding, and staying up there for hours because you don't want to be taken away by ICE. Seeing videos like that, it is like, oh my God. And that's how you see it, and you're like, wait, this is not a movie? This is not Georgia where they're filming some kind of like documentary. Well, it could be a documentary. some work of fiction, where it's this, because it seems like a work of fiction, right? This seems like a work of fiction. This seems like you watch it and you're like, this cannot possibly be true. People cannot really subscribe to this and just go all out in your face about this. You're looking and you're going, they did what? Over and over. Over and over. They did what? They did what? What did they do? What had happened today? I can't believe they did that. Why are people not saying anything? My God. Okay, so this is, oops, and I zoomed that in. Let me get that out there. Okay, so I kind of have this kind of covered, but this is basically, I already did that. Now, one thing I should mention, this is crazy. All these Fox News people. Fox News is like, they need to quit it with what they're doing, and they're being too leftist, and they're being too political, and when they get called on something, they're like, we're entertainment. We're entertainment. You're not supposed to take us too seriously. But then they say some stuff that I'm like, really? They're clowning Gavin Newsom, saying Gavin Newsom shouldn't be doing these like parodies on social media when the president was the first one to do it. He was the first one to do it. So because he's responding, because he deserves to be called out for his bull. And these images that he puts out, like he's just Superman. Doesn't feel like Superman right now, does he? I don't know. People that drank the Kool-Aid might still think he's like Superman. They might. Oh my God. Fox News, just talking about them just made my head hurt. But she was a Fox News host. A prominent figure in the administration's new law enforcement push. She pressed for changes to local laws that she argues treat juvenile offenders too leniently. She should be in jail. She should be getting time. She's got a drinking problem. Everybody knows it. You think she's been out there being safe and being responsible? But she's talking about juveniles and taking that kind of stance. Are you kidding me? Okay, now they've debated how to handle the lower level arrests, but according to the White House, federal agents have made more than 630 arrests as of Thursday, though the Justice Department has not clarified how the figure compares with typical city police numbers. While Pirro has committed to filing the toughest charges possible in most cases, she's also relaxed enforcement of local gun law. Did it sink in? Did you hear what I said? Local gun law. This week, she directed prosecutors not to pursue felony charges against people for possessing rifles or shotguns in the city, despite a D.C. law prohibiting them. Now let's talk about D.C.'s numbers. Oh, wait, no. I got New York. I know that from seeing the numbers that every one that you can mark and quantify and measure have all gone down. So his statement, they've all gone down. Some of them by double digits. More than one. And he's talking about how rampant the crime is. And no one is bothering to check it out and see, is this true? Because they drank the Kool-Aid or they're scared of him, or they're just like, I want to make it great again where it's mostly white people. You think about African Americans and black individuals and the percentage of the population that we are, and seeing new statistics where these red states and people that are on public assistance, the majority of them are white, Caucasian. They're not African American, but the perception that people have about us, and you know, he's talking about inner city youth and like too lazy to work on farms or whatever he's saying. It's like that that gets spit out with such a sense of ease and comfort, and where you're like, you're supposed to be the president of the United States and you are seriously belligerent? You sound unintelligent. You're misinformed. Talk about people eating dogs. You're like, whoever told you the last thing you remember, and that's what you repeat over and over and over. That's your way of acting. The fact that he just says it and they are making it happen. Or someone else is, why is it so windy? Or somebody else is saying it and implementing it, and he's just the spokesperson. But we know he's been racist and anti-black for decades, so you know he's got a part in that. Okay, so the police did not apply to cases. The policy does not apply to cases involving violent crimes or individuals barred from owning firearms, Pillar said in a statement to CNN. Sure. She said that the change follows guidance from the U.S. Supreme Court and the Justice Department and Solicitor General. You know what? Supreme Court, I just want to give them a middle finger. Clarence Thomas, oh my God, I can't stand that man. The fact that they're like, open the gateways to this. Does he not realize he's in a biracial marriage? They're probably gonna try and like get rid of biracial marriage, which I'm in a biracial marriage. And it's like, does he, the privilege he has been able to own and make his own, right? And that's enabled him to reach the office that he's in. He's like, I got it, but I don't want it for anybody else unless they subscribe to this way of thinking. That's maddening. It's so ungrateful, and it's just a blank slate as far as like the history and where you come from. The fact that he could be the spearhead, I really do think he's the spearhead in all of this like dysfunction and hate. He knows he's a black man, right? He does, right? Does he? On Thursday, Trump declared his takeover of the Metropolitan Police Department to be a success. He always says that. I'm the smartest ever. Only I can do it. I'm a genius. Y'all already saw the test that he quantified that with, right? You already saw that. It's like, you're an ignoramus. Oh my God. He had previously signaled that he would target other cities like Baltimore, Oakland, and another mission in Los Angeles, as well as New York and Chicago, which are strongly Democratic voting and run by black mayors. That. The Maryland governor, Wes Moore, said to CNN that crime was dropping in Baltimore as a result of community violence prevention efforts, and he would never activate the National Guard for let's talk about New York. Oh my God. Overall crime down 3%, 2024. Violent crime down 4%. Burglary and auto down. Transit crimes down 5%. The only one that has increased is RAPE and felony assault. And that's because of a law that was passed as the definition of what it actually entails. So that goes in line with not respecting a woman's body, right? It happens to men, but it predominantly happens to women. And so with that new law, it changes the requirement and what is deemed under those definitions, what's deemed like actually that, like, this is what it, the meaning of it is, this is what's a chargeable offense and stuff like that. So that's the only one that's gone up. People are not doing the research. They're just buying this. They're just buying it. I already spoke about him signaling that he would do Baltimore, Oakland, and Los Angeles, and New York, Chicago, and we talk about the whole dropping. Oh, theatrics. That's what he's saying. Baltimore's Mayor Brandon Scott also spoke to CNN, accusing Trump of signaling out black cities. And Moore said that the cities the president was now targeting are a place he has never been, streets he has never walked. So what do you think? I gave out some numbers. Some of what I shared, you might disagree with. You might say that, I don't believe that, or she didn't give enough information. The thing about it is an informed public, an informed citizen has power and can affect change. If you blindly follow a sentiment of anyone, Republican or Democratic, Republican, Democratic, Independent, whatever. If Tea Party, Green Party, you need to research things yourself. You may say, I don't have time to research. There's so many things that you can do within a minute as far as finding out information. Most of the time, you can find it out very, very quickly. Instead of parroting what someone tells you, even if it's me, instead of parroting what someone tells you, I encourage you to please, please, please research, look it up, be informed. There are so many things that are slipping through the crack because people are not paying attention. And the thing about it is, it's going to get to a point that if you are not being informed, if you're not leveling up in the information that you are researching, taking in, educating yourself with, it can get to a point where you're like, wait, they did what? And it's too late to do anything about it. So this is a call to action. It's a call to action to become informed and do what you can to combat this. Whether or not it is going to a protest, whether or not it's reaching out to your elected officials, whether or not it's just sharing a post, whether or not it's calling a relative, whether or not it's running for office yourself, whatever it is, you need to decide how far you are willing to go and what you are willing to do to protect yourself and your loved ones and your community from a threat that is not so far on the horizon, a threat that is here. Fascism is here. White supremacy is here. Dictatorship is here. It is manifesting in real time. And if you do not do something, you are complacent. So don't tell me you don't want to talk about politics right now. Don't tell me you don't want to do anything. Don't tell me that, because that's taking a stand. That in itself is taking a stand. I tell you, I could talk about this for a long time. I hope I did okay with this video. I feel like I was kind of all over the place because you know what? I feel like I was all over the place because there's so much going through my mind and I can't get these videos out fast enough because someone's like, speak up. On my channel, if you go on my channel, you'll know that I have laryngitis. And just me talking this long is not so great for my throat. But I've been like going, like not speaking for days and doing all that, doing my tea and all that stuff to like combat it. And I just, until I get into the ENT and I have a diagnosis, this is my reality. So I'm sorry if you're not hearing me. Please, please, please use the captions that YouTube makes available. And I'm gonna check and make sure my settings are that so people can use the captions. I'm pretty sure it is. And then I'm trying to figure out the perfect app that I want to use to add captions before I post it. So if you like this content, and I think I'm gonna do a feel good one next because I kind of need it. I kind of need it. Oh my god. So do a feel good one that makes you smile and say, oh, that shit's adorable. If you like the content, please subscribe, share, comment. I do love hearing from you. One of my last videos, I had someone really interact with me, and I do dig it. Sometimes we're not going to agree on things, sometimes we will, and sometimes we learn from each other, and all of that's necessary, I guess. As long as it's a respectful dialogue, I'm all for it. Okay, my loves, peace. See you soon.